its answer. Why do you think the Prophet of Islam, he would say, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Tuba, how good, how happy I am to receive talib al-ilm, the one who's come to learn. Asking a question is an important factor in leading ourselves to Allah. So Ibrahim asked the question, and the answer wasn't just faith-based. It wasn't just, no, you have to believe more, or this is what it is. Why do you wear hijab? You know, I have two sisters, right? Amina and Maryam, 15 years old. Alhamdulillah, they've been wearing hijab for maybe 2 years or so. But I remember when they were growing up, I was wondering, and I would say to my father, you know, I think they're going to put it on, because it's not a matter of you walk in the room, put the hijab on the bed and say, put it on, don't come out of the room. That's not how a Muslim is. That's not our faith, right? Based on reason. Why? Why do you wear hijab? Why do Muslims pray? Why do you face Mecca? Why do you follow, what's the Sharia? What does the word mean? Where does it come from? Why do you hate Jews? These are all things that are put on us as Muslims that we are free from. It's not a matter of our faith. It's not anything to do with faith. Many of things are political or are things that have nothing to do. They're not faith-based issues. And it's important for you to find answers to be able to support yourself. Hold on a second, I don't hate Jews. I don't hate every Jew. I'm a reasonable individual. I'm a human being. Who would say something like that? That's as Muslims. You have to understand what our faith calls to. What was the message of the Prophet Muhammad? Peace and blessings be upon him. So ask questions. Why are these people doing these atrocities? Some of the brothers I was talking with a little bit earlier yesterday and today, why is there a prevalence in terrorism? Why are Muslims doing these horrendous criminal things? You have to answer. You have to know the answer to these questions as a Muslim. Reconcile it within yourself. Because sometimes you'll see something and you'll say, this is not Islam. And you know it's not Islam. But you don't have the ability to answer others when questioned about it. And you must find those answers. So ask questions of people who are knowledgeable in these matters. But one of the most important things we also extract as a lesson from this dialogue between Ibrahim and Allah is that Ibrahim went to the source who can answer him. Sometimes we have a question, but we don't go to the person who can answer our question. Or we don't choose the right person to answer our question. That's a big problem. So you have to link yourself with people of knowledge, with people of understanding, with people of wisdom, with people who are specialists in particular areas. If I have a chest infection, I don't go see a podiatrist who's an expert in feet, right? You have to go to the right person for the right solution that you will receive, inshallah. The third example we take from the life of Ibrahim is as a father. Now, in the Quran, Allah has given us ضَرَبْنَا لِلنَّاسِ فِي هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ مِنْ كُلِّ مَثَلٍ. We've given to humanity in the Quran an example in every matter of their life. So for example, if we look at family structure, just as an example, since we're talking about Ibrahim as a father. If you want to see an example of a righteous father with a righteous son and a righteous wife, a good nuclear family upon faith, you can look to the example of Ibrahim, his son Ismail, his son Ishaq, and his wives. If you want to see the example of an adopted son who's righteous, and a father who's a tyrant and an unbeliever, ungrateful to his Lord, you can look at the example of Pharaoh and Moses, right? If you want to see the example of a righteous woman who's under the companionship of a horrible husband, you could look at the wife of Pharaoh and her husband. If you want to see the example of an evil woman with a righteous man, look at the example of Lut. Or look at the example of Noah. If you want to see the example of a disobedient son and a good father, look at Nuh and his son. He says to his son, come ride on the ship. His son runs off, no, I'm going to climb a mountain. سَآوِي إِلَى الْجَبَلِ يَعْصِمُنِي مِنَ الْمَاءِ. The ship wasn't just safety, it was salvation through faith in God, through faith in Allah. Every example in the Quran of everything that you can ever imagine in terms of family structure, just as an example, can be found. Ibrahim and his son Ismail. It's a moving story. In biblical sources, it's between Abraham and Isaac. In Islam, it's seen between Ibrahim and Ismail. That Ibrahim sees in a dream, as is found in Surah As-Saffat, Inni ara anni azbahuk. My son, I've seen in a dream, and as Muslims we believe from the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, that the inspiration that used to come Ibrahim wasn't while he was awake. The wahy would come to Ibrahim while he was asleep. He would see dreams of what was to happen or what the instructions from God or Allah were to be. He says to his son Ismail, I see in a dream that I am to slaughter you. Now, Ismail was a young man who had just attained the age of maturity, strength within himself. His father abandoned him. Now you have to look at it in that context. His father took Hajar and Ismail into the desert, into the wilderness, where there's no water, no food, no inhabitants. بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. In a place that is desolate, but near a house of your worship, that is sacred to you, O Allah, is the description Ibrahim says. And when he leaves his wife there and her son, he turns and walks away, doesn't say Salaam alaikum, doesn't greet them, he just turns and runs. And Hajar asks him, Ahada amrullah, is this an order for you by Allah? And he just indicates to her with his head yes, and continues back into the land of Canaan, into present-day Palestine, and leaves them there. And he would come back every so often to check on them. But for the most part, for the young years of Ismail, for his times of growing up and for the moments that he would receive input from his father, were limited. To the point that, as the Prophet of Islam tells us, that when Ismail when he got married to his first wife, Abraham came to visit. He asks, where's my son? His wife says he's out hunting. And she didn't invite him in, she didn't give him any water, she wasn't hospitable. So he told her, when your husband returns, tell him to change his doorstep. Tell him to change the doorstep that he has. And when Ismail returned from his hunting trip, he said, anyone came to visit us? Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought you were giving me notice. Anyone coming to visit? And she said, yes, an old man, he came. He stayed just a few minutes and he told me to tell you, change your doorstep. So he told her, you're divorced, go back to your family. The doorstep was the initial greeting that she gave him. She wasn't a generous person. So it shows you the limited contact that Ibrahim had with Ismail. And out of the blue he comes and he says to his son, my son, Allah told me to slaughter you, to kill you. فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. What do you think I should do?